Honourable Dr. Nick Smith.
Mr Chairman, I just want to challenge a few points that were made in that speech that are so relevant to the estimates. Let's get the first fact right. This national government is the first government ever, to provide ongoing funding for emergency housing. $41 million in this budget, 9 years. Labor was in government and never provided funding for the Monte Celia Trust, for the home shelters across New Zealand. These estimates are the very first ever to provide long-term secure funding for emergency housing. The second point I would challenge that member on is this is the first government in 40 years to increase the base benefits for families. 40 years. Now, this government has fated...
Order. I have previously warned the Minister to focus on the estimates that we're currently debating. And I think he's... I understand that, but I think what he's actually focusing on is something which was announced at least 1 and possibly 2 years ago.
Mr Speaker, this year's appropriations provide for the funding in this financial year for the increase in benefits for families. That is the very first increase in 40 years in the base benefit levels for families. And then I've heard the speeches from the opposition who say nothing's being built. Well, I was a little bit bored, so I had a look on the net. And you know what the lead story on the Herald site is? This. It's a quote from Mr Graham Darlow, the chief executive of New Zealand's largest construction company. And I'll quote him word for word. "I have never seen so much construction activity of such a scale right across New Zealand in my 40 years working in our construction industry." This is the chief executive of Fletcher's, New Zealand's largest construction company. And so I say to this House, when they get on their feet and they say, no, there's nothing going on in the building industry, I say, get out there, engage with the real sector, because the truth is there is more residential construction investment right now than what there has ever been in New Zealand history. And then I heard the whinges of members opposite about the sale of state houses. Well, I'm proud, very proud, of the first home scheme that's provided for in these appropriations. I'd love to table the letters that I've had from New Zealand families that have been given the opportunity to buy their own home under that scheme. And while Labor and Green members hate Kiwi families buying their own home, we on this side of the House love it. And we love the fact that we're giving families in cities like Invercargill, like Gisborne, like Dunedin, like Nelson, like Greymouth, all over the country, the opportunity to buy a house. And I say to members opposite, what's wrong with allowing a tenant or a first home buyer to buy their own state house? That is a good thing. That is a good thing, and I challenge members opposite who challenge that. And then we come to the issue of state house building. Well, here's the facts. These estimates make provision for $1 billion of state housing investment. You know what the best that was done during the Labor years? They did less than 500 million. More than double. More than double. Let's take the number of houses. Last year, Housing New Zealand built 800 homes were completed. And Mr Twyford says that's not nearly enough. I say to Mr Twyford, when Labor was in government, when house prices doubled, they never did better in any year than 430. And what do these estimates provide for? They provide for more than 1,000 homes in the next year and even more in the year after. And I say again, that shows the progress that is being made. The very last point I'd want to make to members is around that Home Start scheme. Why will they not support New Zealand families getting some support from government to buy their first home? Why is it that Labor have promised to repeal that scheme? That is a beacon of hope for thousands of Kiwi families who actually under this government have got jobs, they've got increasing incomes, they're getting ahead, they want to save their money in KiwiSaver and use that scheme to buy their own home.
There was some more.